So what did you think about the State of the Union?
I was probably slightly less impressed by it than the rest of at least the liberal community.
Okay.
Only because I felt like it did feel rushed to me.
Okay.
Like he was maybe trying to pack a little bit too much in, and like I kind of agree with the criticisms that he might have been overcompensating. Like it feels
like yelling too much, or
I guess yelling, but more just like trying to get it all out. Like he was forcing and pushing and pushing and pushing.
Okay.
All that said, still like an 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10 performance.
Oh yeah, I think
Yes.
8.5 is a really fair metric. I really do.
Yeah.
I have to say his substance was beautiful. I got to be honest. Like when I took notes during the speech, and I was waiting for certain policy priorities to come out. I was waiting, and I got almost all of them that I wanted to hear.
Which ones were you looking for?
Pass the PRO Act.
Okay.
He said it. Low income housing tax credit. Heard it. Taxes on billionaires. He talked about the minimum tax on billionaires.
Yeah.
The ones that I wanted to hear him say explicitly that he was balancing the budget for Medicare, which he is planning on doing if you read his 2025 budget. Next week, we should do a deep dive of Joe Biden's entire 2025 budget plan, because it's very important to understand that's the type of president he wants to be in the next term. But he has some amazing ideas. He just needs to get them out there. And I think he did so effectively with the State of the Union.
Yeah.
I watched it with my dad, who is a Republican and a Trump supporter. But as we're watching the speech, Dad couldn't disagree with much. Dad's watching. He's like, no, billionaires should pay the same percentage rate as firefighters. That makes sense.
Yeah.
No, corporations should have to pay at least more taxes than, a teacher.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. All right. That's all right. No, we should only pay $35 for insulin capped, even for private insurance companies. That makes sense.
Yeah.
No, we should change the way we do late fees and change the way that credit card companies charge fees on us. No, that makes sense. Joe Biden just has to get that message out.
Yeah.
I
mean, and what, some 12 million people or more watched the State of the Union live, so that's a great place to get the message out. And I imagine if you're thinking about the average undecided voter, right, who's thinking about what's going to happen in November, and you're thinking about the State of the Union, which has as much reach as it does, there's no better platform, right? This is like the best opportunity he'll have to speak to that person until the election.
Oh, yeah. And he nailed it. He nailed it.
Yeah.
Listen, one of the criticisms that I don't agree with was that he was too political, that he was too partisan. I think it's important to be partisan in moments like this, because you need to show the differences. You don't want the American people to be misinformed and not understand the disparities between the two parties. And you're the president. You're running for re-election. State your case. State your case. Why do you think you should be reelected? And he gave you great reasons why. He showed you how he was opposite from the Republicans when it comes to taxing billionaires, when it comes to not expanding the Trump tax cuts into the next decade, which Republicans will do for the high income earners. Joe Biden has said that he will keep the Trump tax cuts for everyone under $400,000, but repeal them for people who make over $400,000.
Yeah.
Okay?
What do you think of the idea? Because I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, for sure.
When you were starting to say that, I was thinking, I agree with distinguishing yourself from Trump on things like defending Ukraine or evangelizing how you were trying to pass the immigration law and the Republicans pushed back against it, and how the Republicans fucked up on that.
Yeah.
But I wonder about like taxation. Are we getting too far away from fundamental beliefs? Or like when he refers to January 6th, right? The fundamental freedom or democracy versus authoritarianism. To me, since those are differences in this rare case, it made sense for him to say, no, he's different than me and he's bad on that. Whereas in previous State of the Unions, those are the types of things that presidents would highlight commonality on between the two parties, and like totally we're all working towards this.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a really good point, because there's been a little bit more of a consensus in the past in regards to those national security things, in regards to the decorum of the institutions of the United States.
Our
right?
leadership on the world stage.
Yeah. These are things that used to be commonalities. And so because those commonalities no longer exist, the speech might come off as more partisan, right?
Yeah.
Because in a lot
But it
of
makes
areas,
sense for the moment.
yes, it makes sense for the moment. And it's important because the American people need to know the difference and know the danger. The next thing I want to talk about with the State of the Union, Joe Biden's not too old. And Ezra Klein ate his poop. Ate his words, man.
Did you listen to...
No, I didn't listen. I read his article, though.
Okay.
I didn't listen to it. What did he say?
He said, yes, my concern was that Biden wouldn't be able to perform on the campaign trail as he was supposed to. And he said, I was extremely pleasantly surprised at the State of the Union that he nailed it.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it. He had to put Ezra Klein had to put his foot in his mouth on that one.
Yeah.
He should have waited until after the State of the Union to make that podcast episode, and then we talked about, and the whole media system talked about for like 2 weeks. We're like, oh, is Joe Biden too old? And then goes out to the State of the Union, and then everyone's like, Joe Biden was too angry. Joe Biden was too energetic.
Well, I think...
Was Joe Biden on meth?
But I think it's okay, like, that it happened that way.
Yeah.
Because now we have a framing that we can specifically look at and say, oh, well, now we can be sure that's not the case, right?
It's also-
Obviously, it wasn't the case.
It's also funny because Republicans screwed themselves because they put the bar on the fucking floor.
Yeah.
So then all he had to do was step over the bar on the floor, and then everyone's like, oh, whoa, maybe he's not demented.
Yeah, but then they switch and they criticize and they say he's overcompensating, he's too angry, like...
Jesse Waters on Fox News is actually accusing him of being on methamphetamine. So, like,
Yeah.
they totally lost the plot. But that so 8.5, that's your State of the Union rating?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would go 8.5. I agree with you. It's the way to go.
Very good.
Very good. Yeah. Donald Trump didn't give a speech like that.
No.
I
was nervous about it going in.
Yeah,
I
was
must say,
too.
right?
Oh, I was nervous.
Like, because if he fails this, it's going to be so hard to come back from.
Yeah. And we honestly, I want to talk about one more thing with him. We really saw a lot of his personality when the way he walked to the State of the Union, his reaction to Marjorie Taylor Greene, if you've seen that infamous clip, or the way he shook hands and talked to every single person. He actually, I think this is accurate, you can check me, but I'm pretty sure this is right, spent the most amount of time in the congressional chambers walking in and walking out than any other president.
Oh, really?
Because he was talking to everybody.
Yes.
And that's what you want out of a leader.
Yeah, well,
you know? And it was from Republicans. He actually had a conversation with Mike Johnson's staff. For like 30 minutes, he was talking to Mike Johnson's staff. Mike Johnson, the Republican Speaker of the House.
That's cool. Part of Ezra Klein's criticisms and worries, right, where he's just not getting out there enough, and it seems like the campaign doesn't want him out there that much because they think it's not an asset to show the candidate right now. And I don't know, it felt like every bit of what he did that night for the State of the Union was showing that he still can do it. And I feel like now the campaign has shifted, not just with the State of the Union, but since he's been out on the trail more, right? You have been seeing him more. He's giving more speeches. These ads are starting to come through with him. And so I think now that the campaign's getting ramped up, it's a lot more encouraging as far as his chances of convincing people that he really can do this job.
Oh yeah, I think it alleviated a lot of concerns that the moderates may have, or those moderate undecided voters who would look at him and be like, no, I think I'm just going to sit this one out. Like, both of them are just demented, crazy people, right?
Yes.
And then they watch the State of the Union, they're like, okay, well, at least Joe Biden's not demented.
No.
Right?
No, he's clear, and it's not just that he's clear, he knows what he's talking about.
Yes, very
and that's
well.
obvious.
And I just have to say, again, I have to reiterate, the Democratic platform that these guys are running on, really the best that we've seen in such a long time. Just the idea of a president running on passing the PRO Act is so unbelievably important. One of the provisions in the PRO Act is allowing solidarity strikes again. That's huge. That means when one company goes on strike, other companies in non-related industries are allowed to go on strike in support of the company who is bargaining for their agreement, which puts way more pressure on capital and puts way more power in the hands of workers.
Yeah, it's a Nordic country style system, right? Law to put in place to it's not just individual unions, it's all workers as a union.
Yes,
basically.
That's the way to think about it.
Yeah.
One big union, baby. So yeah, Joe Biden, State of the Union, great job.
Great job.